Hey, hi, hello. Welcome, beautiful, authentic action co-creators. I'm Gabrielle, Angel, Lily, and this is the Authentic Action Podcast, brought to you by Gal Media and Fun Fast Productions. I am super excited about this podcast as it gives me a fun way to share diverse stories and perspectives with you as I explore what it means to design and live a good life. I hope to provide a platform for diverse ideals as I get to enjoy and share authentic and entertaining conversations with creative people from many different walks of life. I will be seeking out and speaking with fellow artists, authors, teachers, healers, builders, paradigm shifters, designers, evolutionary leaders, and transformational speakers who have dreams and ideas about building a better future together. I am particularly interested in cultivating growth mindsets, conscious community building, healing through flow states, and how we tap into the universal creative energy potential that I believe is in us all. Also, I love making new connections and being helpful, so if there is ever anything I can do for you, I hope you won't hesitate to ask. Now that we are currently nearly a year into the COVID-19 global pandemic, with subsequent rolling lockdowns and such a drastic shift in the way we interact, I think it's more important than ever to think about healthy ways we can stay connected to the people and activities we love. Please don't forget to subscribe so you can get notifications about future episodes, and let me know if you have any ideas or stories that you would like to share. My guest on today's episode is known for her sense of style and excellent taste in fashion. She is a successful mother, wife, and designer. She's a fellow Renaissance woman with a diverse skill set, and she's a valuable professional contact in my life, whom I feel lucky to also call a friend. I'm excited to have her share some of her personal story and charm with you as she explains how she's used her creativity and design work to help her overcome many of the challenges of healing after a stroke some years ago. I know you will enjoy this conversation with the lovely and multi-talented Laurie Begnaud. So let's get to it. Laurie, welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Authentic Action Podcast this morning. I'm looking forward to learning a little more of your personal story. The purpose of this whole podcast is to share individual stories of overcoming adversity and creating a life that you love. So you, as a designer, caught my eye, and being that we know each other for a few years now, I know a little of your history, but not that much. So I'm looking forward to just hearing more of your personal story, your journey to where you are now.
Well, great. Well, where would you like to start? I mean, we all hear that I was born up, no, I'm not going that far. I guess we can start back when I started to think about what I wanted to do with my life. I mean,
That's
we all
perfect.
have that thing. And I was in high school. I was doing a lot of theater. My family grew up in the theater. I remember when my folks got divorced, my dad remarried, and Sally and her kids were involved in the theater, as was my dad, as that's where they found each other. And we did a lot of stuff in the theater as kids. We did makeup for them, so, I mean, I remember my sisters and I could like, oh my gosh, he's the cute one. I want to work on him. So we were already involved in theater. And then I started doing lighting. And I spent my junior and senior year backstage, on stage, anywhere I could. And I went to Emerson College for design and got a theater degree, a design degree, a Bachelor of Fine Arts. Well, the funny thing is, I found out that doing lighting, they wanted me to do a lot more math. And, I guess when you get into it, you get to the point where it's like, well, you're this far away and you're this far, you kind of learn it.
Right.
but me and my trig were not doing it real
I
well.
wouldn't have
So,
guessed math was a big part of lighting, but it makes sense now that you mention it.
right, because you have to, how much light is in this spot, how many foot candles for this, and how far is,
Right.
but it was fascinating. I mean, it was great to talk about colors and how they mesh and things like that. So I got color theory through lighting design, which is, is not the same as color mixing in art. It's very different. And then I started to go and do all of them. Set design, that's part of the curriculum. When I got into costuming, I was already involved in a group called the Society for Creative Anachronism, which is a medieval recreation group. So I was like, oh, wow, cool. I'm going to learn how to make these things. And one of the first projects that I had to do was design for Cyrano de Bergerac. And, oh my God, it's right at the time period, just at the end. And I learned how to research, and then I learned how to drape, which is my favorite thing. All right, I'm not a flat patterner. A flat pattern is when you take people's measurements and you make up a grid and you draw the pattern itself on the paper.
Right.
I'm okay at that. And a lot of times I will start with that to get a basic and then drape it on the person. But draping was my favorite. And that was where you take a piece of fabric, you mark your grain line on it, and you just start pinning it on until you get the weight that you like it. Fascinating. Well, I just fell in love with making clothes and the end product. I mean, yes, the process is kind of fun for me. All right, since we're talking about our process, I usually start with an idea. I might write it down. I'll take a sketch, and I have to almost flesh it out fully in my head before I start. That's just that's for me. And so but you haven't done anything. No, it's all up here. It's all up here, and that will take. Sometimes it takes me a year to go through when I'm working on a specific garment, and I feel really bad. So I'm currently working on a project for someone that I started last year. And this is one of the problems we were talking about, adversity. I had a stroke, a bleeding stroke. My second, I did not know this was my second. Surprise, surprise, because strokes affect people differently. I didn't have the one side that was slowing down and I couldn't feel it. No, that was not me. I did have one day out of this whole time where my fingers, when I typed, were 1 inch to the left or the right. And that I had to relearn that. And that was difficult.
That's an effect I haven't heard yet, but that sounds like a challenging.
It was very odd. So when I had my stroke, I just thought it was the first time I had it. I thought it was my first migraines for a hot flash. For I was starting to change, and it was.
How old were you? I'm just curious.
My first one, as a matter of fact, happened here in Albuquerque. I had come to pick up my hot rod Packard with a friend, and I started having these killer headaches and hot flashes. So I think, oh, great. I'm 37. I'm having my first, first deal. I'm like, great. So at night, I would have these horrible pains. I'd pop like tons of Tylenol, and during the day I was fine. So it never occurred to me that there was something seriously wrong, because this is not what you hear about as a stroke.
Yeah.
You hear, oh, the one side is drooping. Well, those are typical male symptoms for an ischemic stroke. That's not what happens when you have a hemorrhagic stroke, and women are completely different. So by the time we figured it out and I had gone in, I had brain surgery. They cracked my head open. I had, I looked like Frankenstein. It was brilliant. Big black lines coming all across here. It took me about 7 years before I could drive again.
Wow.
I never lost my speech or walking or anything like that. I did lose memory. So when I went back to working and I started to work on a uh, coat that I'd been working on, I had to make pockets. It took me 3 hours, talking with a friend, talking through it to make pockets. And that wasn't even just sewing that. That was like, how do I cut the bag to go inside and stitch around the... So it was a matter of relearning things and reteaching myself. I once had a friend prior to my stroke who said she had a TBI
Mm-hmm.
from a creepy boyfriend who beat her and caused brain damage. So she said, I know these things. I'm going to teach you. You're going to teach me. And I said, what? She said, I know. It sounds weird. I lose it in translation.
Mm-hmm.
Which is exactly right, which is why I had to talk through it with a friend
Yeah.
before I could go and relearn how to make it.
Mm-hmm.
So back to my original point is that I have been working on this coat for a friend,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a commission. He had a wolf coat, a vintage wolf coat, and I am going to change it. We're going to make that the lining of a black wool coat from the 14th century. The Rus, so there's a lot of research that goes along with my things,
Mm-hmm.
and so the process is, okay, what is it that you want? What is historically appropriate?
Mm-hmm.
How can we take what you want and find the historically accurate piece to work with what you have and where you're going?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's straight out of, here's the picture, make that. Other times it's changing something and making something completely new.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing that I love about design. I mean, yes, I do things from scratch, from here's a piece of fabric, here's a strand of silk, let's weave it. I started out as learning weaving from my mother-in-law. She gave me a loom, then she gave my husband a loom, and I don't weave anymore because he became the weaver. And I would help him set up the loom and he would weave. And so my design went into the threads. How do we make the warp and the weft, and what are we going to make? Ooh, and taking from a warp, which is like all these long strands and it's one color.
Mm-hmm.
And what can I then weave within it to make something completely different? So you can take one warp, which is like 15 yards, and make 3 different pieces of fabric that all look different from the same warp. So that's another issue and fun thing about design is being able to take things and make them mutable within your whole process.
Mm-hmm. I love
So
it. That sounds strikes me as a challenging and also perfect scenario to bring your to work your brain after a stroke in many ways, like both challenging but also the complexity of that strikes me as
it is. It was fun because it was almost like going back to school again.
yeah.
And so some of it's fun learning.
Mm-hmm.
Some of there's definitely the frustration
I
when
imagine, yeah.
when you're trying to tell someone and the aphasia kicks in and you're like, I need the thing, the thing that you sit in, that your butt goes in. It's a chair. Oh my God! And then you find there's the word,
Yeah.
but you're hunting forever, and it gets frustrating. So I think for someone with a disability like mine, that's the most frustrating part of any design or anything is losing that word or that concept when you're trying to explain it to somebody.
Mhm.
You know, when you're by yourself, it's not a big deal because it's like, oh, I know what it is, and you just do it.
Yeah.
But working or talking with somebody else,
Mhm.
that's the hardest frustration is, and maybe that's part of, you know, why you do the podcast is we want to be able to explain to others what we do, and to get a better understanding of ourselves and other people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I started in part in terms of design and how it kind of muted. Now, while I still do these individual things and I love them, because sometimes it takes me such a long time,
Mhm.
and I don't want to get frustrated or anything. I have also chosen to take my design sensibilities in another direction, and that is um, helping people design wardrobes and um, coming up with new things from old things. I
Mhm.
am a huge proponent of vintage clothing and vintage styling and um, keeping things out of the landfill. No
Yes.
more landfill, you know, no fast fashion. I'm granted. I am like everybody else. I have gone to Walmart and bought my pair of undies and gone, oh my God, my $3 pair, you know, package of underwear. Yay!
Mhm.
Um, but those are disposable goods. I mean, let's be honest. You know, even our 100% cotton panties, how long do we get to wear them?
Yeah.
Not that long. They are disposable I should say consumable. I
Mhm.
mean, we actually consume them, they get used, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
Um,
You use the
which
word fast fashion, which I just recently heard, and I think that's it's an interesting word, but yeah, it's referring to that disposable, that just quick on and quick off, and then you
right,
on to the next thing.
right. When we talk about fast fashion specifically, we think a lot of those sweatshops. The you
Mhm.
know, oh, I'm on you're literally paying 2 cents for the labor to make this garment, and you go to Walmart or Target or whatever, and you pay $2 and you get a T-shirt, and it's on sale.
Mhm.
And there, it's kind of ludicrous. I mean, when we're talking about the consumable garments like undershirts and underwear that we wear on a daily basis, that absolutely makes sense. I
Mhm.
mean, you know, that makes sense. Now, I still buy my Victoria's Secret underwear, and they last a long time. They're a good product.
Mhm.
So, but I buy them on sale. So you learn, you know, you shift. I haven't bought a piece of clothing that was not secondhand, uh, vintage, or thrifted in, except for underwear and such, in many years. And that's because, all right, well, I'm thrifty. Um, the vintage clothing that's out there is far superior quality wise.
Yeah, that's what
Um,
I would say. I when I think of you in a really quality outfit. So you don't get those kind of outfits just at Walmart, you know.
I want to show you something. So this great leather coat,
Uh-huh.
it's Calvin Klein. All right. It's a perfectly styled blazer. It is traditional, simple. You can wear something like this everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I got it at the Alameda Flea Market in California when I was visiting my daughter. All right. I'm going to tell you what I paid for it. I paid $20 for it
Mm-hmm.
at a flea market. Now, if I had found this and I was selling it, I would of course be marking it up. When I sell vintage clothing, I try to look at the piece of clothing itself. Yes, I look at the name. Yes, I look at the fabric, but I also consider the garment. If you're buying a garment what are you going to pay for? What are you going to pay for on the regular market? What is the value of this piece of clothing? Does it matter that it's 10 years old? No. Does it matter that it's in perfect condition? Yes. Does it matter? What matters? You like it. You wear it. Does it fit? Does it feel good? That's what is important in our clothing. And I think people have a tendency to look at things and go, I want to know the name. Oh, who's the label? Who are you wearing? Really? Who are you wearing? I'm wearing me.
Yeah.
Honestly, and like this. So this is one of those things that I designed. I was able to work at a place called Marika Charles. They're online as the Match Collection. And Charlie and Marika, brother and sister, started this great company, and they made hand-painted clothing. T-shirts, sweaters, and things. So when I started working with them, I did a lot of prep for them. I ironed, I washed, I folded and packaged and things like that. And that's what happened right after my stroke. So, you know, I didn't want to deal with brides. I had been working in a bridal shop, and I didn't want to deal with the brides because I lost my filter when I had my stroke. And so you really don't want to say, oh, baby, those boobs are going to look so great in this dress. Oh, no, I can't say that. No, you know, you can't do that. And I was lucky. I was able to catch myself. But there, you know, when you have a pattern with a bride or something, and all of a sudden you have to stop and remember, don't say that. Don't say that.
Yeah.
It kind of, you know,
I imagine brides are uniquely a little bit stressed out and less patient than some other potential customers as well.
Yeah, exactly. And now I'll be honest, I never had a bridezilla because of my rapport with people. So this made it more difficult for me to get rapport when I have to stop myself and say, oh, don't say that. Oh, no, the MF words do not go in here. That was, yeah, I mean, all of a sudden I had, you know, the MF was an anathema to me, and it was like spilling out of my mouth. Like
right, the brain was like, let's say this.
and you know, the weirdest part was it wasn't bothering me until I think one day I just realized, oh my gosh, those words are spilling out of my mouth. I've never used them before, and it's not bothering me. I think there's a problem.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, that was the worst. So I went just to work for Marika Charles, and, you know, it was a lot easier. I was working 4 hours a day. I folded beautiful clothes. I got to touch things. And then they said, we need a new thing. I was like, I'm a designer. You want a new? She said, Laurie, I want something that looks kind of like this. And she handed me a garment, and I was like, all right, well, can I change this and this and this and this? She says, yeah. So I ended up making this fabulous bias cut silk top, and with raw edges, and, you know, we got samples, and they sent them back, and I said, well, this wants this. So we switched those. So I actually did do, there are thousands of women wearing my shirts with different colors, you know, and that was the thing. So this is the stripes, and then they had, you know, solids and beautiful flowers and everything. But that was a really fabulous process to actually go through the full-scale design process, where you get samples, I make a pattern, I send it them, they send me more, and we go back and forth till we get exactly what we want. And then, you know, then they would come in, we'd print them, they'd, you know, go out, and I'd fold them and send them out. That was really wonderful to go through the entire process. So, did I buy these? Yeah, but that's kind of a little different because it's mine. Yeah. And, you know, while I was working for I got discounts on my things, but that's part of our life. And when people ask you about, well, can you make me this? Sure, it's going to cost X. But you're my friend. Yes, I'm your friend. And this is what I do for a living. When I ask you for something, I pay you because it's what you do for a living. Now, we definitely have barters and trades. And I think that's one of the things about modern society. And I think with this pandemic, I think you're seeing that more is we are trying to find that community and doing more barter. At least as far as you and I know. I mean, you know, you and I, we barter for things as far as I will do this work for you and you will do this work for me, or I have this item. What do you want in exchange for that? And we work things out like that. I have been seeing that more with my friends. I see a lot more people selling things online. And I want to encourage everyone out there to buy local. You can even buy it online and pick up at, you know, at your local Wendy's, and you meet in the parking lot, and you know, it's all hush hush. No, it's not. Honestly, I have been doing a lot of that and have never had a problem. I've gotten some amazing pieces that I have then turned around to my clients and resold them. I remind people that there are things out there that you can't find now. The quality is simply not there.
Yeah, I think it's a great, I just want to put a emphasis on that point of, as we're moving into more and more online purchasing as a result of this pandemic and just the evolution of technology, I think there's a temptation to just go on to Amazon or Walmart or some of the big conglomerates, and yet there's also the opportunity to find someone like you, a personal designer, get yourself some either well preserved, you know, well made piece of something, or something specifically personally designed for you, which for me is like the most exciting way that we might be able to dress or, you know, come out of this with personalized items instead of just those general items.
Right. That kind of goes into style and personal style and thoughts about your own situation. I think that style is, and fashion is a great thing for people to express their personality. It's funny, I've been watching some of these Instagram models, Instagram girls and men, and some of them are fantastic. One of the girls I recently saw, you know, I started out being your typical Instagram model, and I was doing everything that I thought would grab people's attention that they wanted to see. And then I realized, she said, I wasn't being honest to myself. I was being everybody else's fashion model, and realized this isn't my personal style. She said, once I decided to transition and use my own personal style, she said, I actually got more followers and more people interested because I'm me. So to everybody out there, be individual, be yourself. I don't want to talk with a cookie cutter. I do talk with a lot of people on chat, on Instagram, from all over the world. Because I love other cultures. I just met someone online from Indonesia. I've never met anybody from Indonesia. The only thing I know about Bali and Indonesia is the great carving, beautiful dancers, and things like that. I want to encourage people to think outside the box. And really, that's what it is. Think outside the box. Find things that make you happy and buy from individuals. There are small companies that are making things. Buy from individuals. If you go on Amazon, buy from an individual on Amazon. Don't go to that the first thing that says click here. Do you know how many, when you put in an item, red ball, do you know how many red balls are going to come up on Amazon? Now you can buy the first one from, wherever, I can't even think, my brain's gone. You can buy the first one you come to, but why don't you go down that line and find Bob's Games. Bob's Games is in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, in New Hampshire, and he's, selling them with him and his wife.
Yeah.
Buy from Bob's Games. Buy a red ball from Bob's Games.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I'm trying to think of a quote I recently heard, and it's not coming to me, but it had to do with fashion versus style, and how fashion is, more of a, like, society puts out fashion, but our personal style is each our own.
Exactly. Fashion is what is put out for people to utilize. Style is what you do with that fashion.
Yeah. I like
so for example, I love leggings. A lot of us do.
Mm-hmm.
But there are times where my butt is just not looking its best. So I don't want to show it. So I will wear a skirt with my leggings. I will wear a tunic with my leggings. I will wear, and my leggings then become part of my style, part of my fashion. I will mix up, my 90s leggings with my 50s dress.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to wear, all 1950s. I'll mix a 1920s cloche hat with a 1990s, tight-fitting jacket. And that's what style is.
Mm-hmm.
Taking your choices and making an outfit, making you look great, because you can.
You definitely have a gift, a talent for that. I'm wondering if you hadn't gotten to where you are now in designing, and I know of your theater background, so maybe it would be theater, but is there another area that you could see yourself having ended up in if it weren't here?
Strangely enough, I think I might have been working with people, doing therapy, talking, because when I was in high school, everyone always came to me, Auntie Laurie, Auntie Malkia. It didn't matter, I've got this problem and I don't know what to do about it. I couldn't solve the problem, but sometimes I could help them find a way for them to find a way. Or so that was it. I think I like helping people. I like making people feel better and talking. So that, I think that might have been where I would have ended up.
I can see that parallel of your ability to solve a unique problem, start from you don't know where and get to where you want to get to is a real talent and gift that I see you having.
Yeah. Well, and people are so amazing. They are these little flowers. I mean, it's a cliche about the flower and the bud and the bloom and everything. But honestly, that is one of the things that I absolutely adore. I love teaching. I could have been a teacher, I guess, too. I've when people ask about, well, can you teach me how to do this? I do. I love to teach them, and my process for teaching is very similar. Here's the thing. All right. Well, here's the basic. This is how you do the thing. Oh, you got that started really nice. Oh, you need something else? Oh, I'm really sorry, but that was hand-dyed floss. So guess what? I'm going to teach you how to dye now, and you're going to dye. Oh, wait a minute. Read this book too. Now you know why you don't need a mordant with this, because it has its own. Oh, okay. Well, let's go on.
Yeah. really
So
understand that.
it's sneaky. It's sneaky. I mean, I'm a sneaky teacher. Yeah, you want to learn something? Sure, come on over. Let's do it. We'll work together. I love it because when I'm teaching, I'm learning myself. Somebody, I've been one of the things I've been doing recently is working with one person um, with he had a garment that needed to be resized. It had, it was way too large. It was one of those things. It's like, oh, here's a garment, but it doesn't fit. Like when I'm talking doesn't fit, it's like, this is an extra large garment and this is a medium-sized man. Luckily, the proportions were perfect, and which is odd. His waist to shoulder and was exactly the same weight proportion as the garment. So we just had to take in side seams. But it was wonderful because I was like, okay, take this garment apart. Here's the seam ripper, and this is how you do it. That's the first step. And then he did that. Yay, good for you. Then we came back. It's like, okay, now I'm going to show you how to put it back together. So this is how we put it back together and how we adjust it and do things. So while I'm teaching him, I'm reminding myself, oh yeah, I haven't done this in a while. How do I do this? Oh yeah, we pin this and we do that. So I think part of teaching, social work, talking to people, period.
Right. I can relate to that.
Right.
I like to explore a three question, three wishes questions. That's what I'm trying to say. If you had a golden wishing egg, that's not right, a fairy godmother. The point being no limitations, like there's magic involved, so there's anything goes is the point. And you had three wishes. One wish has to be for you personally. One wish has to be for the world at large. And one wish can be for whatever you like, maybe related to your designer or something else. What would those wishes be?
Wow. My wish for myself would be to finish what I started without the heartache of having to push it so hard. I have the worst problem with follow through and ADD. So that would be the thing. I wish I would be able to follow through without the lag. Wow, that made me kind of verklempt here. There's so many things I want to do and accomplish, and I sometimes think that I'm my own worst enemy. So that's what I would like to for myself.
I think that may be true for all of us. I can certainly relate.
Right. For the world, what would I wish for the world? I mean, peace, prosperity. No, I would wish that the people of the world had the understanding to realize the hurt that they were causing to others, and so that they could realize that whatever they did to another one is how they would, they could feel the hurt that they caused to another person. Because I think if we did that, if we all were able to empathize, there would be a lot less problems.
Yeah.
So that's what I wish for the world. I wish for complete empathy for the world.
Beautiful.
And just a regular whatever wish.
Your choice.
My choice. A personal wish. I would wish for all my friends. I would wish for all my friends to have that thing which they need the most in their lives to happen.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Very beautiful.
All right. Now I got.
Now it made you emotional.
Yeah, it did.
Yay, I win.
Emotional. I'm a very emotional person.
I am too. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's interesting how we tend to veer from emotion. And yet, like you just brought up about empathy, I think it's so beautiful when we can feel our emotions, and maybe that's what we're all learning to do a little bit more comfortably. I don't know.
I really do feel that if individual people were able to understand what everyone around them goes through, there'd be a lot less hurt in this world.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple, a lot less hurt. Because you know what? When you hurt and you realize that Joe next to you is feeling that same way, you don't want to hurt like that. You don't want Joe to hurt like that, because, gosh, that's just ugly.
Yeah.
No need for that. So
it occurs to me that in a way it like requires more hurt, like requires the empathetic person to feel the hurt. And then where I get too often is this realization that ultimately it's about learning to feel good, not in a selfish way of disregarding others, but in a way of recognizing that we're all in this together, that we all influence each other. So the more I can take care of myself, which is the one I have control over, then the more we can all feel less hurt together. It seems to me. I don't know if
it's an interesting proposition. We all want to feel good for ourselves. And honestly, sometimes it's about making others feel good. For me, I know I feel good when my friends are feeling good.
I think that's a beautiful part of being a human being. We are so
right. I think
so reflective of each other, and
I think so. I see people who are not happy, and I often see that there's not a lot of people around them. And I don't know if it's because they're not happy, so they keep people away, or people stay away because they're not happy. I mean, like I said, it's that weird quick catch-22. But designing our lives, we can design our lives with others in mind, or only ourselves. And I've chosen to try and design my life with others in mind. And the last year, during this pandemic, my daughter left her job because she was working too closely with the public, and they wanted her to continue, to get right up in there and work with the public. She said, "No, I'm just too scared." So she came with me, and she helped me put my vintage clothing. I got my puppy with me. Put the vintage clothing store more online, better. We got a better process going of how to do that, and working with her is wonderful. Now she just moved to California, but Zoom has been fantastic. So once she got settled, we started working on Zoom, and I've got the items here, and I do the measurements, and we talk about it, and she does the computers, because, as I said, I still have issues with typing. I was never fabulous typist to begin with, but my great 35 words a minute with no mistakes went to about 20 words a minute with tons of mistakes. So it's really a lot easier for me to say, "Okay, honey, well, blah blah blah, it's a 1950s cute sundress with great blah blah blahs," and she can go tickety 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 tickety. I'm like,
yeah. It's interesting to me. I think the pandemic, this last year of isolation, as many of us have experienced, and I have been living mostly, I rent rooms, but I live essentially alone. So it's really driven home that point of the need to make connections and to create intimacy with each other, I think, because we are so social. And in interesting ways, it's opened up new opportunities for deeper connections in an interesting way. I think.
I agree with you. Yes, it has done that in some ways because people are searching so hard
Yeah.
for that touch, for that connection. Um, but as you know, it has also caused a lot of mental health issues because of that isolation, because of the lack of touch. Um,
Yes.
People we don't think about it until we're missing it. I'm a hugger. I hug everybody.
Me too.
Yeah, and when all of a sudden you can't hug people, I mean, you can't even go and touch them on the back. Oh, it's so good to see you.
Yeah. Or even stand
And
close enough to feel the warmth coming off their body, the vibration. Yes.
yeah, 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 yeah,
It
yeah.
is something I feel like is coming. We're going to have to figure some things out with that. I'm not sure what, but
Well, I think one of the things that has that's been helpful, and I recommend to people is our isolation groups.
uh-huh.
I mean, we we have developed a group of 5 people
Hmm.
that we see each other on a regular basis, once or twice a week. But we all know that the protocols that we're packing, we all wear masks
Hmm.
every time we're out. We all, wash our hands. We do the thing. We stay 6 feet away, and we try to maintain the non-social communication with others to those, you stay 6 feet away. I go to John Brooks because I know that their supermarket is great. They were Johnny on the spot. They had their plexiglass up. They had their marks on the floor. They have been doing the deed, and nobody goes there. So I feel safe.
Right.
And I know other people who are doing the same thing. So I can go and hang out with them.
Hmm.
So if we find those social groups that we all maintain the same thing and we stay in those small circles, that's how we have been able to maintain our safety
Sanity,
throughout this.
maybe. Yeah.
Right, safety and sanity. Right,
I,
right, right.
yeah. Yeah, and I just to pull it back around to design, I feel like
Absolutely.
it is a opportunity. It's a challenge, and in that, an opportunity um, to find those new ways to basically, deal with the challenge of isolation, the challenge of online shopping, all those things. And I think
Sure.
something like shopping in your Etsy shop or hiring you to design an outfit, even if it's, even if it's all through the internet, of course, it doesn't make up for the lack
Absolutely.
of touch, but it can
Right.
create a new kind of intimacy that I think might have been lacking in our society or not being cultivated.
It's interesting because I started to use Skype, Zoom, similar situation.
Hmm.
Um, but I was using Skype because I was doing fitting. So before the pandemic started, this was a couple of years ago, just to how technology is able to help us.
Hmm.
I made a motorcycle jacket for someone in California. I'm in New York. Uh, his wife and I were online, and she measured him through Skype with me, and I was like, okay, I want you to measure from here to here, and I followed her exactly. Yes, put it right on his shoulder, exactly right there, and I moved it. So we did everything via Skype. She sent me his measurements. I made a mock-up of the jacket and sent it back. Had him try it on while on Skype, and I sent it with pins and marking stuff. And I said, okay, now I want you to pin here, do this, mark that, do that, and send it all back. I've done this with several garments, and it comes back, and then I send out the finished garment, and it fits perfectly. So I know I am not the only one out here doing this.
Hmm.
There are people all over the world that are doing this. You can find some amazing things. And I highly recommend getting outside your box and Skyping with people to do personal things.
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned connecting with somebody in Indonesia. I think it's such an
Yeah,
amazing, I mean, on the flip side of us being in isolation
yeah,
is this amazing potential to connect to people in ways we've never connected before. So,
yeah. I found I started looking for an emerald for my wedding ring. So when I was in California, I had a wasp sting me
mhm.
right on my finger, and I didn't. I was like, oh, no big deal. It wasn't a problem. So I didn't take my ring off. Guess what happened the next morning? My finger was the size of a sausage, and my circulation was getting cut off. So we had to cut my ring off with what was at hand, and it was a pair of crappy ass dikes.
Right.
So my gold wedding band got mangled. So I was like, well, I wanted to get you a larger emerald, blah blah blah. So we started looking for. I met someone in online that ended up getting my emerald through, having fascinating conversations about the beautiful land and the mines that the emeralds came from, the people, and I am talking online with a Muslim man, and the difference of culture made it a real interesting conversations and fascinating to me. So that was really neat because they got a look at, a woman buying something, and they couldn't deal with a man, they had to deal with a woman, but they were very polite and genuine and friendly. I appreciate that. They also got a chance to, converse with an American woman who had different ideas about things. And I really liked that sharing of cultures.
Yeah.
And I think it's always surprising to others when I, I'll be honest, I am a waspish woman. That's what I was raised in and all that. Now, believe me, I have transferred a lot of that away, and I no longer follow many of that. But because I was born and raised in this, I like I need to expand my horizons so much more, and that's part of the design. I wanted to learn everything about anything. Um, you know, did you know that white is not the traditional wedding color in many countries?
I did.
Red is the more important one, and in many of the Asian countries. I think the first time I asked an Asian woman about her wedding color, said, do you want to incorporate red anywhere in this? She just, this huge smile. Oh my gosh, our tradition. I said, well, of course. That's something that you learn. And at least I did.
Yeah.
And as a designer, I wanted to know everything about anything. And my husband got very angry once upon a time. And he's since learned, he says, you do too many things. You do too many things. Why are you doing all these? Because so I learned how to, carve leather. I learned how to sew leather. I learned how to dye, how to embroider, well, why are you doing all that? Well, because it's all a matter of design. Am I going to continue and be a professional embroiderer? Hell no. Am I going to, carve leather for the rest of my life? No. But when I need to specify for somebody something, I know what I'm talking about. That was the other thing, when you conversations. I learned enough. I'm not I'm not a master at anything, really. I'm pretty darn good, close to that in sewing, but I'm a jack of all trades, and I know enough to ask the questions to get me the answers.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's more important. You don't have to know everything. You just have to know enough to be able to ask the right questions.
Beautiful point. I want to thank you again for joining me. I'm noticing the time just flying by, so I want to wrap this up with just a couple of ending questions. One is, where can we find you, or where would you like people to connect with you if you do? And the second, just so you can be thinking about it, is do you have some advice for any listeners, young or old, or anyone who's trying to design their own life?
I love that. Yes, designing your own life, and that is the most important thing. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but design your life with your ideas in mind. Okay, so people can find me. I am on social media under my name, Laurie Begnaud, LaurieBegnaud @gmail.com. If you want to send me an email, I'm Laurie Begnaud on Facebook and on Instagram. And I have, you can find through those, you can find my
beautiful
Etsy
Instagram.
shop.
Let me just interject and say I really enjoy your pictures on your Instagram.
Thanks. Thank you so much. I tend to do a view from the tub where I'm sitting in the tub, and I will do video musings about strange things. Sometimes it's just pictures. And of course, you know, you'll see me hawking my vintage clothing as well. Laurie's Design Lab is my Etsy store, and you can find great vintage clothing on there. You can also contact me to do any kind of design work if you'd like to have personal work. As far as what my advice for young or up and coming or older designers, because let me tell you something, I don't care if you're 70 years old and you have an idea, make it.
Sister, yeah.
You know, and that's
I just hit 50 and I feel like I'm just starting, so you know.
Yes, you know, I mean, there are people who started in their 70s and became amazingly well known. Let's talk about Grandma Moses, for example. All right, now I'm not a big fan of her outsider art, but she made huge deal with her, you know, landscapes of the Northeast in, you know, in winters and such. And they're fun. She was in her 70s.
Yeah.
She was making it into the 90s. So as a designer, find something that you love. And if you love it, it makes it easy. But I guess everybody says that. Listen to people around you, and that means everybody. I don't care if they're not a designer. You know, I actually learned something from the 5-year-old around the corner because they pointed something out in a flower and said, "Look at that pretty." I don't remember what it was. Oh, it was a bug. Look at the pretty bug in the flower. And just and they said something about the way it crawled and left these little patterns on the in the dew that was on the flower. I was amazed because they were exactly right. They said something about the pattern and the numbers in the pattern or something. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
So I guess the thing is, keep your eyes open, listen to people, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. That was the hardest thing for me to learn. I was always scared. Well, it wasn't going to be good enough. It wasn't going to be this. It wasn't going to be that. Don't be afraid of whatever your worries are, because if it's not good enough, you make it again, and you make it again, and you make it again. My husband's art teacher, which we took care of him for the last 10 years of his life. And I had the joy of being able to watch him paint. And the funny thing was, he would paint the same subject over and over again, each time slightly different, slightly this. And yesterday we were going through a bunch of his slides and trying to determine, okay, well, that's multiples and multiples. Andre pulled out 3 slides of the same piece of art, but it wasn't the same painting. It was the same subject matter, The girl's face was slightly different in all three pieces, and the background had different details in it, but it's the same piece.
Yeah.
It's variations on a theme. So never feel bad about doing things multiple times, and you didn't get it right the first time, make it again. And if you're going down a path and it's not working and you just get frustrated, throw it away. Throw it away. Don't make yourself frustrated. Start over again. And don't worry about that. We're going to make more mistakes than we make good things, because that's how we learn. So that's my advice. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Authentic Action Podcast. You can find Laurie on Facebook and Instagram as Laurie Begnaud and at Design Lab. I highly encourage you to check out her Etsy store, where she offers vintage clothing and accessories, and also custom design work for the burlesque and cosplay communities, as well as some truly remarkable historical recreations. I will include a couple links in the description to help you find her easily. You can help support this podcast and my endeavors to take over the world with playful consciousness by checking out my courses, books, t-shirts, music, and art. You can find out more about me and my work on this and other subjects with a quick search for Angel Lily or at www.angellily.com. Again, check out the description for direct links, and please do sign up for my mailing list so you can keep up with the exciting things that I'm getting into this season and into the future. I really do appreciate your attention today. Thank you for listening. As always, I welcome your questions, comments, and suggestions. I wish you a lighthearted and joyful day.